Hujambo, and welcome to the Espresso Talk Today show, where we confront the chaos of living Black in predominantly white spaces. And we discuss ways to contain, curb, and control that chaos. And that is why we are here today. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Amma Robin, and I'm a Black empowerment educator and host of this great and groundbreaking show. If I do say so myself, that's in a humble way. One thing that I've learned over the years of studying, learning, struggling, and living Black empowerment is that one of the most important things is your health. Your mental health, your physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. So yeah, while it is important to identify and confront the racial chaos, it is so important to calm, contain, and control that chaos because you got to protect your health and your well-being. And that is why I am so happy to have a very special guest return to my humble show today. Her name is Roxanne Worden. I feel so lucky to share an espresso with Roxanne, and I'll tell you about her in a bit, then we're going to go straight to the show. Roxanne Worden is a board-certified life and mindfulness coach. She owns and operates a coaching business called Cloud Walk Coaching. She believes that we control how the chaos affects us when we choose to honor who we really are and what we really wish to achieve. That's a quote from her website, cloudwalkcoaching.com, and it's her philosophy for life and for living it well, and she does. You're going to see what I mean during the show. I met Roxanne some years ago while I was traveling in Ghana, and I was immediately impressed with her dynamic energy and her courage and her compassion, and actually how she challenged herself to be her best version of herself, and she challenged me to be mine too. That's when I knew that the Espresso Talk Today community needed to have an espresso or a cup of tea. Tea drinkers are welcome here too, with Roxanne. You can also arrange to have your own espresso or cup of tea with her too, but I'll explain more of that after the show. Today's show is a summer mindfulness special. It's a self-care special for Black women or for anyone who identifies as female. Roxanne will introduce mindfulness, what it is, why it's important, and the different ways to practice it. And if you think that you know all that, well, you're in for a big surprise because no one does it like Roxanne, or brings the level of care and compassion and professionalism in dealing with the chaos of living Black in white spaces. Just to mention this is the first part of a two-part series on mindfulness. Part 2 will focus on using mindfulness to tap into your inner wisdom. And Roxanne has a great way to do that. More on that after this show. Asante Sana to Roxanne for meeting with us today, and Asante Sana to you for being in the building. Let's get straight to our uncommon conversation. And I hope that y'all are ready for this. Hey, Roxanne.
Hello. How are
Wow,
you, Amma?
I'm doing great, great. And it's so great to see you today.
You too.
Thanks a lot. And I always love seeing your backspace there too. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm so glad that you're here today because there's been a lot of things on my mind, and I know that you're the person to go to for this. And I was thinking that for me, that I need good friends in my life, of which, of course, you are one. But then I also need, someone like, professionals, like, general practitioner, of course, very, very important. I have a doctor, my dentist, my podiatrist. We don't even want to talk about that one just now. Um, a handy person, a handyman, and and I think many people forget this, a mindfulness coach, because somehow
Yes.
good. So you know why then too. Of course you do. And that just brings it all together for me. So thank you for being here. And thank you for being my friend too.
Oh, sure. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And do you think, I mean, what this list of practitioners, I mean, I guess that can vary for people, but well, do you agree with me about this? The mind having the mindfulness coach on the list?
Oh, I definitely agree. As a mindfulness coach, I'm a, I'm a little biased, but no, I definitely agree because, I always say that, there's that saying that it takes a village to raise a child, right?
Right.
And I also say that it takes a village to keep an adult sane. So I believe in building up your village and having as many experts and people that just stretch your mind around is available because we only can go in the same loop, for so long. And so we always need to be growing, learning new things, and then not having to know everything ourselves. The great thing about having experts around your table is that you don't have to keep everything in your head and feel like you're the expert at everything, even though we have the temptation to do that with Google and and we all I think we all became doctors during COVID and all of that. We have that temptation to feel like we need to know everything, but actually that can be very stressful. And so just having experts around you is really helpful.
That's absolutely true. And on that note, I do want to ask you, is this how you, came around to becoming a mindfulness coach, or what was your journey in that respect?
Yeah, sure. So I became a mindfulness coach because one, I didn't realize I was coaching people in my life already. When I worked at, a normal desk job, 9 to 5, people would come to my office and sometimes sit for hours when we're supposed to be working. Don't tell anyone, but they would sit in my office, and it didn't matter if they were like PhDs or if they were students that were just doing an internship. They would come to me and just pour their hearts out. And I would listen and I would give my 2 cents on it. But really, I mainly listened and really pulled out of people, well, what do you really want? And based on what you want, then how can we move forward? What action should you take? Right. And so this was personal and professional stuff. I knew way too much about my coworkers.
Mhm.
And so actually around like a little bit before the pandemic, I went to a workshop myself because I was always very into personal development. And the workshop was run by a coach. And before that, I thought, and this was like a professional development workshop, like to get in touch with yourself and, your own empowerment. And before that, I thought coaches were those people that said, I can show you how to make 6 figures in 2 months. I thought that those were coaches.
Yeah.
And so when I went to this workshop, I'm like, oh, this is coaching. This like what I do. This is what I do in my like office all the time. And so I decided to go get training on it. And the more I delved into it, I realized, oh my gosh, this is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. Like the way I like helping people is this. And then I focused on mindfulness in particular because mindfulness is what helped me get through a lot of tough situations in my own life.
Okay.
And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit later about what mindfulness is, but it was just such a huge help for me.
And since this kind of came naturally to you, it seems, why did you decide that you needed training, extra training? Because maybe it just was a natural thing for you to do. People were coming to you; they were attracted to your energy and to your wisdom. So why did you feel you needed a specific program to follow, or something, or was it?
That's a good question, actually. I found that there were a lot of coaches in general, and I felt I wanted to have a certification at least, because there are a lot of coaches out there. It is difficult to tell, who you should go with. And so for me, I wanted to at least have a good amount of training in, how coaching should be done, the actual just practice of coaching, right? And so I'm really actually grateful for my training, because what my training taught me is that I could weave in the mindfulness practices, things like meditation. I was able to find a school that let me kind of use meditation as part of my practice. And so I honestly, the training it was fun for me. It really was fun. Also, it helped me to have a community as well of other coaches that I can bounce ideas off of. And to this day, I can log on, once a week if I want to just like get new ideas from coaches and mentors. And so I'm a big fan of community. Again, building my own village, right?
Yeah.
To keep myself sane and also help me with success.
Okay. Yeah. And then what exactly is mindfulness? Because some people have, I've heard about thrown around a lot, and some people have just said that just sounds like a lot of white people stuff. And I'm not saying it's not, but I wonder, yeah, what is it exactly, or how do you define it or use
WPS, right?
it?
Call
That's
it at work.
right. I like that.
Yeah, so actually, mindfulness is more simple and practical than people think it is. When you say mindfulness, I think a lot of people think of like you're sitting Indian style or back, legs crossed. Sorry, I don't want to say Indian style. Like you're sitting with legs crossed. You see my age. We used to say things like that.
Yeah.
But you're sitting with your legs crossed and, like perfectly back, back arched or whatever, but it's not that serious. Literally, mindfulness is just being mindful of what's going on with you in the present moment, right? And so if you're mindful of what's going on with yourself in the present moment, one, you can be more present. So that's a big key, right? Being present. And then two, it helps you to notice what you're thinking about on a regular basis. What are the thoughts that I tend to have that actually add to my emotional state on a regular basis? So that's what mindfulness is. And then the last key for mindfulness is not judging what you see. So you become the observer, you look at what's going on with yourself, and you don't feel the need to judge it.
Okay.
And that's helpful because you let go of that resistance that we all have to say, oh, this is how I should be acting. This is how I should be thinking. We don't should ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
so that is literally mindfulness. So it can be done, people do meditate. I'm not saying that's not part of it. So people do meditate to achieve mindfulness. Some people do like mindful eating, like people who want to
Oh,
do
yeah.
better with their eating habits. They eat without watching television, all that kind of stuff. So they can actually pay attention to how full they are, when they're eating, and stop eating at a good time. Some people do mindful walks, mindfulness, biking, but it's just whatever you can do, or mindfulness listening, you listen to music, but whatever you can do to get yourself in the moment. And you want to be able to practice to a point where you're anywhere, where you are at work and you can say, you know, like think about how many times maybe someone's been doing a presentation and you could not pay attention to save your life. Like, mindfulness can help you. Like if you keep practicing getting in the present moment, mindfulness can help you, increase your attention span by just simply being able to pull yourself back into the present moment and say, oh, okay, what are they talking about? Oh, let me even notice the colors on the slides. Oh, I wonder why they use blue. Like just being in the room,
Okay.
so very practical. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that, our attention spans are getting, it's really, really short now and everything. But I mean, is it that we're just not paying attention to what we're doing? And I mean, they say on TV, we're not paying attention to that either. On social media, you got to catch people in the first 3 seconds or you don't. Where is our attention going? Where are we putting our energies?
Yeah. Well, one thing we have to remember as human beings is that we're habitual creatures, right? And so the thing about it is no matter what we're doing, we're building a habit and we become more efficient at whatever we, do more and more. So I know there's like this, some people are debating, is social media evil or not, and all this kind of stuff. But the reality of, if we take social media as an example, the reality of social media is not always necessarily the content, because I have very positive content on my social media, right?
Yeah.
It's actually the reality that we built a habit of looking at our phone 50 times a day. And it's just like our mind is going to get more efficient at whatever we do, whatever we want to do, our mind's going to get more efficient at that. And so it's just the bad habit of, oh, I just have a habit of now of just after 2 minutes, I can't pay attention anymore. Why? Because that's what we've told our brain we want to do. We're constantly programming ourselves to do something more efficiently. We have to choose what it is.
Oh,
Right.
yes. Okay. Okay. And if we're not present for it, we don't know where we're putting our energy. It may be going into, well, I don't know, but like mindful eating, having seconds or having dessert or having more food when you're not hungry,
Exactly.
instead of realizing, okay, no, I'm satisfied. Okay. Mm.
Yeah, and then we built a habit around eating more,
Yeah.
even when we're not hungry. Because, have you been around people and they're like, or even, I've done this myself where it's like, I know I'm getting full, but I just I feel like I need to finish this, whatever this is, right? Like, I
Yeah.
need to finish this bag of chips because I just have a habit of finishing the bag of chips. I don't need it. I'm not hungry anymore. I could easily just, close it up, put it away for next time. But now I've just built a habit around it where I have to finish now.
I
And
see.
that's all we're doing is building habits. And it's very if you really think about what we're doing as humans, it's very simple things, but it gets complicated when we start getting into the exactly what it is. And, yeah.
Yeah, I see. And what I don't see so far is how well, okay, this is a Black Empowerment podcast show, and I'm very happy to, to have you here and talk about this. And how does this fit in the context of Black empowerment and personal growth?
For Black empowerment in particular, this is a powerful tool. The reason I would say so is because we have been trained over hundreds of years to ignore our own humanity. And because we have been trained to do so, we do a lot on autopilot. The strong Black woman complex doesn't come out of nowhere.
Right.
It comes from us having to survive historically, us, having to fight through our homes being torn apart systematically. And so we now there are things that we do just out of habit. Like we have a habit of surviving,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And so what mindfulness does is takes you out of survival mode, which is actually a very stressful way to live. Because when you're in survival mode, you're still undergoing stress that you're just not aware of. You're just really good at it.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So mindfulness, being mindful of what's going on within you, allows you the opportunity to observe yourself, see yourself as a human, see yourself with compassion, see
Mm,
yourself and say, girl, you're tired. It's okay. Take a nap.
okay.
You see what I mean? Like
I do.
really, yeah. So we, especially as Black women, we definitely have been unseen in so many ways. Would you agree?
Completely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. Like we've been unseen in so many ways. There's a funny skit on there was a sketch show. There was a funny skit where they said this woman is an undercover. She's the best undercover they've ever had, right? I think it's supposed to be CIA or something. And we're like, oh, who is she? And she turned out to be just a Black woman, and she never had a disguise on. They were just saying, basically the skit
That's
was saying,
hilarious.
Black women are so invisible in some settings that she can go in and come out without being seen,
Oh,
right?
that's hilarious, actually.
That
Sad,
hilarious.
the sad way, yes.
Yeah, but I definitely identified with it. I was dying laughing and I identified with it. Like we can definitely go unseen in a lot of settings, even though we're doing a lot of work, even though we're holding down the fort, we're putting our best foot forward, we're working twice as hard, we can still go unseen and purposefully, right?
Yeah.
And mindfulness helps you to see yourself. Mindfulness says, no matter what's going on around me, outside of me, I see me. I see me. I'm here. I'm a living, breathing person. I'm here on purpose. I see me. So I don't care if you don't. I'm here.
Yes.
That's
Wow.
what mindfulness does for Black empowerment.
I mean, just even hearing, the what you were just saying just sounded so well empowering and soothing at the same time. It's like, yes, I am here. And yeah, and
Mhm.
I see me. And it doesn't matter then that you don't. I see me. And that just
Yeah.
it's very uplifting. Wow, hearing you
Yeah.
say that, yeah, really, you brought something up in me. So,
Ah,
yes.
beautiful. Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
does that also go into the personal growth side too?
It does. It goes to the personal growth side because one of the things that happens with us, and this is everyone, is that I think that we treat each other based on how we treat ourselves, right? So when we're hard on ourselves and we're judgmental to ourselves, we tend to be the same towards other people. And some of us even, you may have experienced it if you have like a hard parent who's just, they don't let up. And if you talk to that parent as an adult, they'll say, well, my parents never, they never really gave me any compassion. So that's what I gave you, because that's what they learned. And so we treat ourselves this way. You can tell that maybe, they also were in survival mode. And so then they treat you in a way where it's like you have to be in survival mode. You have to be ready,
Oh,
and so we pass that on and we treat each other that way. So getting in touch with ourselves and seeing how we're treating ourselves, how we're talking to ourselves, being mindful of our self-talk is really helpful for personal growth and professional growth, really, because it will ultimately improve any relationship that you're in, even if it's a working relationship. So it's something that I definitely suggest, even in professional settings, to be aware of yourself so that you can better communicate with others.
wow. Now communicate with others. Is that about once you're more in touch with yourself, you can, you know, see or understand when somebody's treating you in a way that you don't want to be treated, and maybe even, teach them how to treat you, or what the
Yeah.
boundaries are there for, that.
Yes. Station. And then you're able to also draw the line where your issues and views and everything ends and mine begin. Right. A lot of times those lines get blurred and I get very offended by you when in reality, maybe you're dealing with something internally and you're also just pushing that out on me. Right. You're deflecting and I'm getting what you're dealing with internally. But believe it or not, when you're mindful yourself, you can have that compassion and see that in other people as well and say, oh, this isn't even me. Like, you're not even, like, you're offending me right now. And I'm going to let you know I don't like to be talked to that way. But I'm also realizing that it has nothing to do with me. It really is something you're dealing with. And I just don't have to be here for that. That's what I tell people.
Wow, wow.
I just tell me, I'm like, you know what? It seems like you're going through this, and it's not fun for me. So I'm just not going to be here for that. And that's it.
A friend was telling me the other night that she read this great quote, and I don't remember the quote exactly, but it helped her to understand that when certain people, that she has different tables, and there are certain people she's not going to allow at certain tables with her,
Mhm.
and it's like, wow. And I wonder, I think that takes some mindfulness too, to really understand that, well, this person holds a certain position in your life, that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean they get to be at every table, with you, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Because that mindfulness too, like it makes you aware of the energy that you're getting from people. Like I always ask my clients, okay, when you're doing this or when you're dealing with this person, does that give you energy or do you feel drained afterwards? Because that's very much a sign of what table, as you mentioned, they should be sitting at. People who drain you, they got to sit a little bit towards the back, like we have to walk over and decide to have a conversation with you. You can't,
Right.
you can't just be at my round circle table, draining my energy all the time. Um, so
I mean, that
it's
just
true.
sounds like ultimate self-care, really.
Yeah.
And wow.
But in real time, that's the key with mindfulness is that you learn to do these things in real time instead of getting home. and saying, gosh, what happened with my day? Why am I so drained? Why, you know what I mean? Like, do you have that when you get home and you don't know what happened that day?
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 But when you're more mindful, you can pick up on things. You build that muscle of just awareness, like while you're out there during your day, like, oh, I know what that is. Okay. Like, let me not give too much energy towards that. I'm getting caught up in your madness and I don't want to. Let me pull back.
Okay.
And
I love that thought of a mindfulness muscle, that this is a muscle you're developing. And wow, really empowering. And it doesn't, if I think about it this way, it's not sounding like WPS to me. Like it doesn't have to be, you know.
oh, good, we got it out of that category. That's yeah, it's not too woo-woo, right? Now it's not too much like abstract and like up in the clouds. It's very basic.
Yeah, yeah. And that, oh, I ain't got time for that. So no, I think maybe you should make some time for that. It's
Yeah,
so,
yeah, because listen, you're wasting your time otherwise, aren't you? Like, if you
mm,
don't have time to be mindful, do you have time to be stressed? Do you
oh,
have time to be sitting there letting someone drain your energy? You have time for something. It's just what is it?
yeah. And I think it might, sometimes it is those maladaptive kind of habits, that, you used to live in a high stress and it's like, it's fine, but it's not, you know.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not. And we know it's not because of the health of that people are experiencing right now or the lack of good health
Hmm.
that people are experiencing. We know it's not okay. We're
Yeah.
just pretending. Yeah.
Yeah. Or you think, well, that's just part of life.
Mhm.
And fact or no, would you say that that's just life, and you just live it?
Yeah. Everything is just life,
Yes.
like everything is life. But I want to experience life in the most fulfilling way possible.
Mhm.
So the quality of life you have does matter. And, if you really sit with someone, it's like, oh, it is what it is. When you really sit with them, oh, they're not happy. One of the blessings that I've had is that people do share a lot with me. People always share with me and say, I don't know why I'm telling you this. I don't, I never talk to anyone. And they say just all kinds of things that are on their mind. And these are people that I've met one time and they sat down and talked for me for 3 hours and I
Wow.
just met today. And it's been very much a gift for me because I learned so much about so many different people. And so a lot of times we all have this mask of, oh, it is what it is. Oh, or a mask of success. Some people look very successful, good money, great life, great social media. Like they just look
Yes. Mhm.
wonderful. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we all are human and we all have things that we're dealing with. And maybe they're not managing the internal as well as they could. So what a tragedy it would be to get all of your external goals met and still feel horrible.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know what I
Where do you go
mean?
from there? Yeah.
Where do you go from there? And that's the devastation that I think a lot of people are dealing with in our society today is that we're checking off boxes very well, like very efficiently checking off boxes. And then at the end, we're going, there's still something,
Yeah.
and you've done all the things. You've traveled, you got great pictures, you got a great career, you got money, you have you have the family that people want to have, like, with the Christmas PJs, like you have it all.
I love that.
There still seems to be something, like some little thing. And that's where things like mindfulness come into play, because that thing is inward. You can't go get it.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? You can't
Yeah.
go get it. You have to uncover it. You have to discover it. It's not a go get.
And that could be kind of scary, huh?
Very scary.
Yeah.
Very scary, especially the longer you've gone without looking at that inside of you, the longer you've gone without it, longer you've gone protecting it, it's
Mhm.
very scary because it's just fear of the unknown, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
a lot of things we feel like we can manage and we can control, we can manipulate, but that thing that's ooh, is in here, that's the unknown.
Well, along those lines, I wanted to ask you too about because you were saying people saying, "Well, that's life, or is what it is." That sounds to me like some of these unhealthy or maladaptive, whatever, thought patterns. And you had mentioned that that's something that mindfulness can really address. Could you discuss some of those, some of the more common ones?
Yeah, sure. So some of the patterns that I notice most in people is one, pessimism.
Ooh.
So pessimism is that, well, the people that are like, well, that's not going to happen, Yeah, or my favorite, I feel like I hear among us, like Black people, is, well, they're not going to let us have that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Do you know how, like,
Oh,
that, that, that is the least empowering statement I ever hear. Because they're not going to let us. Who's letting you have what? You can't, like, someone has to give you permission. And it's like they're not, it's like no, no, like no, needing permission. And the very ambiguous they, right? And so it's like one of the worst statements I hate to hear. It's like, I don't know, scratching the chalkboard for me. It's, they're not gonna let us have that. They're not gonna let us do that. And it's
I
like,
I grew up, I think, hearing that a lot. Yeah. They didn't do that.
and don't get me wrong, there are real forces out there that are racist, and the system still is rigged and all of that. But to rehearse that statement in your mind over and over, and then to take a step further and say it out loud, is just reinforcing the reality that you don't have power. I don't have power. I'm going to need to ask for permission to do that. I'm going to
Wow.
need to ask permission to live. Yeah.
But like maybe they'll just say, well, look, I'm just being realistic, you know. And I often might hear people say, I'm just being realistic. I always want to say, oh, but that is just wrong because, and I never really know how to answer that. I mean, is pessimism and realism, are those, I don't know, the same thing? Are they used interchangeably? Is that what you're talking about? You know, these people who say, I'm just being realistic, you know.
That's a really good question because I like that. I really like that question. Because it's true, right? Because people think like, oh, if I'm going to be an optimist, I'm just like living in the clouds. I'm not thinking about what's really going on out there, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I say. Actually, I don't say ignore it. And also, this is part of mindfulness too, is that you're not saying, no, you can't have these thoughts. Mindfulness is being aware of what's going on in your head, right? So you can say, like, let's say you're aware of, I'm one of those people who say, they're not going to let us happen. They're not going to give me the promotion or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Now, I would say, sure, that thought comes up. Let's explore it. You can even write down or go through all the ways in which you will fail, right?
Okay.
But then let's let that go. Let's let that be there. This is all the ways. And then, a lot of times for me, it's like, listen, will I die if I fail? No. At the end of the day, if I try and I fail, I won't die. So now I'm going to focus on trying. Or even for me, even better, I like to focus on the doing, right? Not even just try. I'm going to do now. Because
Do.
what I don't want to do is let the reality of what's going on now to affect how much I'm willing to put forth in my own effort. Because otherwise, if we all continue to live in the reality of what's actually not what we want, we just perpetuate it. Let's keep going in the cycle of what is expected of us, because they're not going to let us. So let's just keep doing what they want us to do.
Oh,
When anyone, you
oh
you
my
know
God.
what I mean? So who's the one that's going to break the cycle if we're all just playing our part in the play? Who's going to
Yeah, who's
who's
going to
there
be
for
the
that?
cycle breaker? Yeah.
Yeah. So even if we try and we get an inch off the path, thank God for that inch. Let somebody else can build on it. let's get a little bit of moving off that path of like what they always want us to do and focus on our action. It's like if we were going to have a march or whatever, we're marching on Saturday, da, 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 and we say, but they're not going to like it. And can you imagine the advertisement of we want to march on Saturday, but they're not going to like it. And you put that out as an ad. Who's coming?
No one coming. No, ain't no one coming to that one.
Who
Mhm.
is coming? And so that's what we do in our heads all day. Is
Mhm.
we have a goal, and then we say, but they're not going to like it, and we keep running that ad in our mind. So
But
you're. Oh, go ahead.
but are we trying just to avoid, disappointment, being disappointed? I mean, that does really hurt. You build yourself up. Okay, I'm just going to go there. I'm going to do, and then exactly what you thought could happen happens, and you just go home with your head down, disappointed. Why did I put out the energy? Why did I,
Yeah,
set myself up for that?
it's true. We do that. It is a lot of our maladaptive behaviors though are protection because our mind is there to protect us. But there is, our mind is there to protect us, but then there's a part of us that holds purpose and meaning to life. And to achieve that, you do go through failure. Honestly, people who have achieved, some of the greatest things, they've built a very healthy relationship with failure. We see the success that they've achieved, but they know they've built a strong relationship with failure and they were just willing to keep going.
Wow, I'm writing that down because that is so powerful to build a healthy relationship with failure. Because I was always
Yeah.
taught that failure is something you want to avoid at all costs, and I think the only way to really avoid it is not to try, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah. And in our culture, right, we couldn't afford to fail for a long time, right? We only get one shot. You can't mess up, as a Black person in a white world, right?
right.
So there also was protection, and there was, a reality to how hard we have to work and how we really have to be perfect in a society. But it also is part of our oppression, actually. That lack of room to fail and experiment is part of our oppression.
Well, that's a really good point because I mean, everybody who has tried anything, I mean, even the richest people, they have failed, but we don't see that on social media, and if they talk about it in their book, they really, I think, cover up a lot of what they went through. And
Mhm.
so we don't, and but yet, if we do something and we do fail at it, it becomes very visible and it's all over social media and it becomes almost a character flaw, that a
Mhm.
person tried something and failed, for a
Mhm.
Black person. And yeah, that really does show it's rooted in oppression. Yeah. Mm.
It
Hmm.
is because
Well,
that's part of freedom, isn't it?
yes, it
It
is to be
yeah.
able to fail. Yeah. And learn and move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, that is liberation to me, and I'm going to write that down too. So, okay. You have me writing here, so this is what I'm. Okay, and what other um kind of unhealthy thought patterns do you
Yeah,
recognize?
and actually you mentioned it. So part of that is the judgment is an unhealthy thought pattern. The idea that if you fail, it means this. If you're thinking this way, so like I told you, you have when you're becoming aware of, you're more mindful of what's going on in your mind, we have the tendency to say, oh, should I feel this way? Oh, let's just, don't worry about that. And so I don't know if you've had these conversations. I definitely have had them in the past where I go around to my friends and I'm like, okay, this is what happened. What do you think? Should I feel this way? Should I be mad? Should I be
Definitely. Yeah, but
right?
is that selfish to think this or to do this? I mean, I'm always,
Yeah,
off. Hmm.
yeah. So we feel this strong need to judge. And it seems, I mean, it makes sense, right? It's like we're operating in society and we're trying to, kind of manage ourselves and have manners and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is sometimes when we judge, we have a tendency to push down those emotions that we're judging, as opposed to letting them come up. So even when you said like, oh, if they're being realistic, is that the same as being pessimistic? Yeah. So if you feel like you're a pessimist, I wouldn't say just say tomorrow, oh, everything will be good. No,
Mm-mm.
let those thoughts that come up that, you're thinking of all the reasons why it should go wrong, let them come up, let them have air, flush them out and say, this is what, and then ask yourself why for some of those things, right? Um, because sometimes we say, oh, they won't let us, but actually the fear is, what if I fail?
Uh,
So you see what I mean?
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
you're really
instead of
trying to get
shoving it
that.
down,
Mhm.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Bring it up to the light of day, then you can see more of, well, what is really going on here? What is this really? And
exactly. Exactly. Like it's like if we're like a tree, when people say we have to get to the root of that. If you really picture a tree, you know, if you just like you can't get to the root of the tree by just like pushing it down. Let's move. Let's not look at that tree.
mhm.
Really getting to the root of that is you're digging. You're now digging to see, oh, what's under there? What's causing that fruit to come up that way? Or
Uh,
what's causing the lack of fruit? Are we not being nurtured in some way? So
and then how do you bring all this up and yet not judge it too? Not say, wow, that was really bad, but what I was thinking here, or that's really wrong what I'm thinking. How do you not not judge yourself?
yeah, that so what I would say, because I mean, I feel like you're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna do it anyway. It's a habit.
Okay.
And also we're kind of raised on that kind of good and bad system anyway.
Hmm.
Because I mean, that's really where it comes from, right? The good and bad. So one I always tell myself is, Roxanne, all of this is made up. Like the
Oh,
good, we made all this up. We made up money. We made up, what's good and bad in our society. Like we made a lot of these things up, right? So I like to say that to myself just to create kind of this like even path for myself when I'm thinking, when I'm going through my own thoughts, like, okay, this is all made up. And then once I kind of make the slate clean and just allow my thought to be there. Um, Now I'm like, well, what would you like to think about that? What
oh,
would you prefer? So more of a positive question than, oh, you shouldn't be, or that's bad. Because the reality is, I mean, what are you going to do? You already had the thought. So you're judging yourself on a thought you already had. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it's like, to me, I view it as just that thing where we like to try to look in the past and act as if we can change it when we really can't.
right, because it's
So
in the past. You're right. Uh-huh. Hmm.
So it's like if I've already had the thought, what am I going to do? Like just beat myself up for having a thought, or I'm just going to say, I'm always thinking, how can I move forward in this? And moving forward is, okay, what would I prefer to think about that, or what's a more productive thought about that?
Wow. Yeah, that is a good way of moving forward with it and saying, okay, this happened. How can I just want to move forward with it, move forward now.
Yeah,
Love that.
like what would I prefer? So even if you're judging it, change that into a question. Like if you do say, because I mean, again, we're dealing in habits, right? So you may have a habit of going, oh, you shouldn't have been thinking that. Oh, that was a bad thought. Then right after you think that, say, what would I have liked to thought instead, or to think instead, sorry.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
what would I prefer to think about that? How would I prefer to see that person? Maybe I judged another person. How would I prefer to see that person? And go with that thought.
Do you ask this to your clients too when you hear them, bringing up these kinds of thoughts, or is this something that a person really has to do internally?
I ask my clients sometimes too. I more so ask my clients why, because usually they're not sure. Tell me, I'll say, tell me more about that, right? Like if they give me kind of a flippant, that was bad, or whatever, whatever. I say, oh, tell me more. Well, why was it bad? And sometimes when I ask people, why was it bad, or why shouldn't you? When they start to go down that path of why not, we actually get to the answer of actually, it was okay that I had that thought. I'm human.
Oh,
Or
Really?
this is where that came from. Yeah. Like, because people actually, they'll say it kind of flippantly because they feel like they shouldn't say it or shouldn't think it or whatever. And then when we walk down the path, well, why did you say that? Actually, there's some reason they had that thought. There's something deeper. And
Mm-hmm.
they go, oh. And they don't feel it's that bad after they go to what's deeper, what's behind it.
Oh,
It's
really?
really, yeah, it's funny to
Okay. But
really funny to watch because what we realize once we really dig into some of the things we do and say that we're judging, we realize there's a human behind there that was either hurt or needs some sort of nurturing that we're not giving them by meaning us, you
okay.
know,
Mhm.
or there's some sort of conflict, right, with what we believe and what we're doing externally. And so, yeah.
I mean, but I guess you gotta, I don't know, courage is the right word. You gotta make the effort to dig deeper, to go there, and to,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Because a lot of us get caught up in trying to perform for other people versus, what's really going on with me. I'm just trying to say the right thing that's acceptable in this society because that will help me keep connection with other humans.
Trying to get a lot of dough. Anything is possible. Turn me up in the headphone. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Yeah. Oh man, I got a lot of goals. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Hey. Oh man, I got a lot of goals. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Hey. I grind to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything